looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Even in my position, I have no prospect of buying a home.
Why are we here tonight? Student debt, loan debt is waiting on hold for hours and hours.
Yeah, those were protesters saying, please, Supreme Court, don't do this. They were outside of the Supreme Court yesterday. This comes as the justices began to weigh in on the validity of Biden's student loan forgiveness plan. Unsurprisingly, the conservative justices are skeptical. Over more than 3 hours of arguments in 2 cases, conservatives led by Chief Justice John G. Roberts Jr. questioned how what Roberts repeatedly called a $500 billion program could be implemented without more direct involvement from Congress, which controls the purse of federal spending. I just got pause here, sisters and brothers and family and friends. That pause has been on since President Donald J. Trump. The president has the power and authority to do this because of the Education Act of 1965. That's how, but maybe the justices didn't know that, but I'm letting them know now because I know they all watching Unbossed. The justices on the right seemed unsatisfied with assertions from their liberal colleagues and US Solicitor General Elizabeth B. Prelogar that blocking the program would actually thwart the will of Congress, which provided for the Secretary of Education to act on student loan debt in times of emergency. That, my God, we are in an emergency because we still in a pandemic. Maybe if them fools hadn't rolled back the pandemic emergency, they could have used that as an argument too, but that's just me. Now here's a refresher on the plan, otherwise known as the HEROES Act. It would eliminate up to $10,000 of student debt for borrowers earning up to $125,000 annually or up to $250,000 for married couples. Those who receive Pell Grants, a form of financial aid for low and middle income students, are eligible for an additional $10,000 in forgiveness. This reporting coming from the Washington Post. Now, to be honest, the whole thing doesn't go far enough. Just go ahead and cancel all of the student debt. Isn't it amazing how we've had presidents tell us that the banks were too big to fail, that we gotta save Wall Street, all of this. But when it comes to saving the folks on Main Street, just cannot seem to do that. Now, Justice Roberts cited Congress's involvement in the process. This is what he said. He said, I think most casual observers would say, if you're going to give up that much amount of money, as if it's his money, I guess he does pay taxes, some of it is his. If you're going to affect the obligations of that many Americans on the subject that's of great controversy, they would think that's something for Congress to act on. Hey, the justice ain't wrong. I mean, Congress should have acted on it, but they didn't. But the president of the United States of America has the authority whether or not Congress acts. And speaking of Congress, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Cori Bush both joined protesters outside of the Supreme Court. First, here is Senator Warren.
I've actually read the HEROES Act that authorizes the president to take this action. Law. But I also know it because it is exactly what Donald Trump did. He canceled billions of dollars of interest payments that were coming due. He canceled them for poor people and for middle class people, but most definitely for rich people. And not one Republican, not one, raised an objection.
Senator Elizabeth Warren letting it be known when it comes to the ultra wealthy in this country, the GOP don't say a mumbling word. And hell, barely Democrats say, the corporatist types say a mumbling word either, because they always right there cheerleading as well. But Senator Warren is laying it down. And here's what Representative Cori Bush had to say.
This is an obligation that they have. These oral arguments that started today, yeah, they just begun, but we see how these Republican AGs, how they built this case on this foundation, but y'all, it's nothing but smoke and mirrors.
It is a foundation of not only smoke and mirrors, it is a foundation on sand. And you know what happens when you try to build a foundation on sand. The liberal justices on the court, they made their voices heard as well. Liberal Justice Elena Kagan noted the court often faces difficulty in trying to understand Congress's intent in passing legislation. This one is not. she said. Let's underline that, bolded, underscored, referring to the Higher Education Relief Opportunities for Students Act of 2003. She added, Congress doesn't get much clearer. Go ahead on, Justice Kagan. Jackson White.
Well, I think this comes back to the $45 billion extra dollars in the military budget that we talked about how there's extra money to pay for education to make up for what's missing in terms of people not being able to afford it. But also, the second most important thing is that actions like this, the only logical end point is that they're just trying to keep the class structure and the power structure what it is. Because there's no economic argument for freeing up people from debt because they'll have more money to put into the economy. They, will be able to put more into savings, invest more, what have you. And there's no real social argument for it either because many other nations around the world provide more affordable access to education, among other things like healthcare and what have you. So other than keeping the power structures what they are, there's really no good reason to knock this down, especially when all the other liberal judges are against it. There's no mix. There's no real argument philosophically going on. It's just a matter of doing what they want to do.
Yeah, this is so true, Jackson. It's very disappointing that they were even going down this road. We just cancel it all, and they gotta really change the system. Period. Because you cancel student debt and you keep the same faulty system, we right back where we started from.